Now, the tight five is next. Neil Treacy is with us this morning at 12 minutes past 9. Neil, good morning to you. How are you?
Not too bad, Ger. How are you doing?
We'll talk about Ireland at the end, right? We may as well leave the best stuff to last.
Right.
Where do you want to start? Is it England, Italy?
Yeah, let's start with England, Italy. We'll go chronological order, I suppose, with the weekend that was. And I suppose looking ahead to Ireland against Italy in a couple of weeks' time, I think the scoreline in the end, it absolutely enormously flattered England. Italy were pretty brutal against France in the opening round of games. But in fairness to them, they conceded a lot of tries against England. The problem was there were large question marks around pretty much all of England's first 5 tries, which was just a bizarre situation. And it was just a game. It was a really disappointing game because I just think the way it was officiated, Italy essentially could not get the rub of the green whatsoever. And just everything that could have fallen in England's favour did. They were not impressive once again. I'm curious to see over the course of the next few days what the kind of discourse is going to be like in the media over there, because they were not impressive. They coughed up penalties left, right and centre again, and arguably should have had even more penalties given a few of the tries that they scored. 14 of the 27 penalties they've conceded so far in the tournament have just been around the ruck. So 14, more than half of the penalties they've conceded in this competition specifically around the ruck. That is almost double the amount of penalties they conceded at the ruck in the 2026 Nations. There are enormous problems for Eddie Jones to be dealing with. To go through some of those tries, like the first one, there was what looked like a clear knock on from Johnny May in the build up to the try. That never came back to be checked by the TMO. That one made it 8 points apiece. Then England went ahead shortly afterwards with another try. It looked like there was a forward pass in the build up. Then you've the third try just before half time where you had Johnny May's dive for the corner. A lot of people think that should have been, classified as jumping into the tackle. In fairness to that one, I actually would probably go down the line of I'm happy enough to allow that, because I think there is actually it is not specifically written into the laws that you can't jump into a tackle. So it's very much a kind of a case by case. It's up to the referee's judgment. And I think when we're doing so much to clamp down on foul play and dangerous play in the game, I think this is one of those cases where you can allow something on the basis that it didn't lead to anything dangerous. Yes, he jumped. He jumped with his legs pretty much going away from the player because he was trying to evade the contact. So I'm happy enough for that one to stand. Then on the next one, that was the intercept pass from Anthony Watson where they went to check back. And this was where I thought there was actually just a bit of poor communication between the referee and the TMO, who was Joy Neville. So the referee is Mike Adamson, I think it was refereeing that game on Saturday, and they were specifically looking for head contact from Owen Farrell, and to see was it a shot to the head of the Stephen Varney, the Italian scrum half. But the problem was, once they established there wasn't any head contact, they didn't really seem to care that it was a late hit, it was a needless hit, it was a no arms hit. He essentially took the scrum half out of play for 2 phases.
So the question should have been, was there foul play there, as opposed to, is this a red card offence? Which was what he was asking about. They were looking to see if it was a red card offence, as opposed to any foul play, in which case it would have just been a penalty. Try gets overturned, Italy kick the penalty or kick for the corner, and suddenly it's a more interesting game.
Yeah, 100%. And it doesn't specifically have to be a red card for them to come back and penalise it. At the end of the day, I think anyone watching it would have seen that Owen Farrell, he waited an extra second and he just threw in a little bit of a shove into the scrum half. It wasn't the most dangerous play in the world.
No,
I don't think Barney
it's
was
not
going
even a yellow card,
hurt.
but it's a penalty.
But at the end of the day, it's a clear penalty. It's a clear, obvious penalty. And crucially, it took the scrum half out of the game for a couple of phases, which meant that the fullback had to go in and stand in at scrum half, and one pass later, Anthony Watson has intercepted and run in under the post. I know you can't go back and say, well, if Stephen Varney had been there, that intercept wouldn't have happened. But you can make the argument 100% that, it had an altering effect on the game.
Okay, so the officiating pretty bad. We'll talk about Italy and Ireland just before. Obviously, we've a week off. Let's talk Scotland-Wales and the emotional roller coaster.
Oh my God. I don't know, is it the fact that these last couple of Scotland games, I've been watching it with a Scottish housemate. Has that just added to the tension entirely? But they've just been incredibly entertaining games. And Scotland, I don't like to use the phrase like they Scotlanded it all over again. But I think did you tweet during the first half as well? I was tweeting during the first half. I, for one, welcome our new Scottish overlords. You were tweeting about how, maybe it wasn't your fault that Wales won last week. That, turns out Wales are actually kind of crap and you got it right.
I stand by that. Well, Wales Scotland shot themselves in the foot immediately. Like, they managed to blow it off even though they didn't have a gun. It was like, how did you do this? How have you done this again?
What I will say about Wales, sorry, you go ahead on.
Well, I was just going to say it's that time of a Monday once again where Gerard gets quoted on Wales Online. This is your opportunity. Mike is live.
Well, in fairness, I think over the last couple of days, I have seen an enormous amount of the Welsh rugby Twitter community who have all of a sudden actually just decided to fully embrace the fact that they aren't necessarily a good team, but they have won 2 in a row. I think they've actually kind of taken on that now as almost a badge of honour. But just to go back on Wales actually, and how they still are not playing particularly well, and there are still tons of problems with their team. But I think one thing that these first couple of games have kind of hammered down, and it was a big question mark coming into the tournament, is do the players have faith in Wayne Pivac? And I think you can actually put that down now as a resounding yes, because they have had countless opportunities over the last couple of weeks where the players could have thrown in the towel or they could have feigned effort. But in fairness to them, they have fully dug things out. And I think that is, regardless of what happens over the next 3 games, that is a resounding victory for Wayne Pivac, that his players are fully buying into what he wants to do.
Yes.
They're just making very slow progress in getting there.
Here's the point, right? Never give a sucker an even break. That was the killer mentality from the All Blacks. Brian Pope used to say that a lot. Never give a sucker an even break. And what Ireland and Scotland have done is allowed Wales to get some confidence and to uncover a new tyro, a superstar who the whole country is going to row in behind, and suddenly they get a bit of momentum and they get a bit of hype. What Ireland and Scotland should have done was kill the Wayne Pivac era. What if they actually do turn into this ball-playing, free-flowing, offloading, physically aggressive? What if they turn into the Scarlets team that Pivac had, that were brilliant to watch and were actually capable of competing against Leinster and Munster routinely? That'd be a disaster for Ireland and Scotland. And we had the chance over the last fortnight to bury them, coming off the back of the horrific year that they had, and we didn't take it. And in 2 years' time, when Wales are slaloming their way to some more greatness, we'll be like, geez, we could have killed that team if we just had not given that sucker an even break. Instead, get a man sent off in both games, cough up crappy defensive stuff, allow the kid to be an absolute superstar, genius. Fair enough. You can't quite legislate for that, although we certainly helped in the first game.
And just one last point even on it as well. I think everyone loves a good smash and grab victory. Wales spent, I think, just over 1 minute and 20 seconds in the Scotland 22 in the entirety of that game on Saturday. That is absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's insanity. Poor Scotland. Scotland going to Scotland, though. Hogg was great, and then was he also responsible for one of the tries at one point as well? And you're like, poof.
He was absolutely unbelievable as well, and I know we'll probably be getting to a Lions watch in a few seconds as well. I know he was probably one of those players who you would have marked down as he was very much a probable of going on the Lions tour this year if it does go ahead. But I think you can pretty much guarantee now with his performances after the opening 2 games, he's in the departures lounge now, feet up, having a beer, just literally waiting for the rest of those teammates. He has been brilliant in the opening couple of games.
Okay, so let's move on. Lions watch, round 2. Who's on, who's out?
In and out, I suppose I'm not necessarily looking at the guys who are guaranteed to be in there, because I think you could pretty much pick almost 2/3 of the squad that, we could have predicted in advance of the Six Nations. I think there are a lot of players that are starting to kind of put their hands up and really, really look to be recognised. I'll go through some of the Irish names very quickly that have impressed over the first couple of weeks. I think Andrew Porter has been absolutely brilliant over the last couple of weeks, and I would say there's a fair chance we're looking at both Andrew Porter and Tadhg Furlong going on the Lions tour. I would say Furlong, simply out of reputation over the last few years, even if he doesn't get to play too much between now and then, I think Warren Gatland would probably have him earmarked in there. And Porter's actually been really, really good over these first couple of games as well. And I think he's been outshining some of the other tight heads across the home nations. Then Robbie Henshaw, who has probably over the last couple of months come into really, really good form. And Hugo Keenan and Tyke Byrne as well. I think Byrne for his versatility, and Keenan just because he's looked very, very consistent and a very, very safe pair of hands at fullback as well. And I think he's made 15 jersey his own. For Scotland, there definitely are some contenders in there, even though they lost at the weekend. George Turner, I think hooker is up for grabs when it comes to the Lions this year, both in terms of the players who are actually going touring and a test spot as well. Stuart Hogg, as we mentioned, although I'd probably say he was probably borderline locked in before the tournament even started. Johnny Gray, who's been outstanding again over the couple of matches. Johnny Gray, I don't know if you've seen the stats around Johnny Gray's tackling, but I was saw one there this morning. Johnny Gray has attempted 449 tackles throughout his Six Nations career. He's missed 10 of them.
Wow.
He's missed 10 out of 449 tackles.
That's pretty good.
He's staggering. He's an unbelievable defender. There are others as well for Scotland. I think Hamish Watson has been brilliant over the first couple of games. Cameron Redpath was excellent in the first. It was a pity he didn't get to play at the weekend through injury. Chris Harris, though, in the centre as well has been good. Ali Price and Matt Fagerson at number 8. So for once, there really are quite a few Scottish players putting their hands up for selection.
We know Gatland hates the Scots, though. He won't pick them. It's like a well-known, well-worn trope at this point. And, I mean, look, Scottish phone-in radio that day of the Lions and everything's going to be pretty interesting. We should all tune in with a bit of schadenfreude. I mean, it's going to be 15 Welsh lads, though, right? I mean, they're the heroes so far. They're the informed team. They're on their way to another Grand Slam.
Well, that brings me nicely to Wales and some of the players in there that have put their hands up. I think there are a few that we would assume are going, but Wyn Jones has been great at loosehead prop over the last few weeks, and loosehead as well is a spot I think where things are really, really up for grabs. You've Rory Sutherland, who's probably been favoured over the last year or so to be a starting line from Scotland. Then Wyn Jones has been excellent. Even if you look right across the teams, like Maka Vunipola, Joe Marler, there are plus points and negative points to picking any of these lads. So I think loosehead is completely up for grabs across all 4 countries. Louis Rees-Zammit was someone we mentioned at the start of the tournament, and after that performance at the weekend, he is in full-on bolter mode. Like he is the one to watch now. That try was just unbelievable on Saturday. I think if you look at specifically the chip and the ability he had of being in full-on sprint, and he did not break stride from the moment he got the ball into his hands to when he chipped through and when he was looping around the Scottish cover and getting in over the try line. He did not have to break stride once. Such was his technique that he could just drop the ball onto his foot and kick it completely in stride and did not have to lose even a fraction of a kilometre per hour on his breakthrough. Justin Tipperick has been excellent in these opening 2 games. He is just one of those guys that just cleans up everybody's mistakes for the course of 80 minutes in almost every single game. And a bit of a wild card then at second row, someone I've liked for a couple of years, and I think he's been quite good over these first couple of games. He's an absolute nuisance when it comes to defending a maul. Adam Beard, their giant second row, he's just one of these guys, incredibly long limbs. He's able to make a complete nuisance of himself and getting in over people and pulling people in and kind of just disrupting them all brilliantly. So he's played in the opening couple of games. I'm just going to be curious. I'm going to keep an extra eye on him, but I've always liked him. And then from England, to be honest, not many players who have actually put their hands up over the course of these couple of games, but I think they are a team that reputation-wise over the last couple of years, a lot of them have earned their places already. But Luke Cowan-Dickey's been really good. Johnny Hill has been really good as well. And probably didn't even need to be said, but after his finishing at the weekend, Johnny May is just outstanding.
Who's the captain?
Lions captain? I'd like to see Maro Itoje get us, to be honest.
Is it going to be Alan Wyn Jones, though?
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, if you were asking me to put money on it, I would be probably thinking Alan Wyn Jones. Personally, I'd like to see Itoje, just because I think he's just an incredible player, and he just has this ability. he's almost in that bracket of the Richie McCaw style where he can get away with so much on the pitch as well. He just has this incredible way of playing a referee and knowing where that tiny little line is between what he can and can't get away with on the pitch. And also, I think he's a guaranteed starter as well. I don't think Alan Wynne-Jones is a guaranteed test starter.
Probably not at this stage. Okay, so changes that Ireland should make against Italy. This comes down to a philosophical issue. Let's assume fitness. Let's assume that those who had HIAs will be grand by the time everything comes back. So you've got a choice: Sexton, Burns, Byrne or Byrne. You can do whatever you want. So let's assume Murray is back fit and everything else being equal. What are your changes?
Yeah, I heard you talking about this as well not so long ago, and to be honest, I'm probably going with if I think was what you were saying, Ger, of if you're going to be testing something out in the halfbacks, either have Conor Murray or either have Johnny Sexton starting the game. It is a bit pointless throwing in both Craig Casey and like someone like Harry Byrne as well. I think you want to keep one little bit of experience just to have a guiding hand for someone else, because otherwise you can end up in those games where they're just messy matches and nobody is really learning anything. But I'd probably be leaning a full deck to choose from. I'd probably go Conor Murray at 9 with Craig Casey getting a good 20 minutes off the bench, and then I'd still be going with either Billy Burns or Ross Byrne at out half, with the other on the bench. And I think, to be honest, it's no harm actually just giving Johnny Sexton an extra week off, because it's falling in that nice period where he'll get 3 or 4 weeks of rest. Elsewhere, I would probably only make one more change in the back line. That would be on the wing. I'd bring in Jordan Larmour to start for either Keith Earls or James Lowe. Which one I'm actually not too sure of, because I think they've both made some mistakes in the opening couple of games, and they've both shown something. I thought Earls was much better yesterday than he had been the previous week against Wales, while Lowe really good going forward yesterday. One of the few Irish players that did look sharp going forward, but as you would have spoken with Alan Quinlan, there were some defensive mistakes in there as well. Keep Hugo Keenan, no need to change him, and I think Robbie Henshaw and Gary Ringrose, it's absolutely fine to give them another outing. You don't want to change too much in that back line, because I think the back line do need another game to have a nice blowout and get things together. Up front, I'd probably still start Cian Healy and have either Dave Kilcoyne or Ed Byrne on the bench. At hooker, I think you could probably put Ronan Kelleher in for Rob Herring, just to change things up and give him a few extra minutes and get a run out. And I'd probably start Tadhg Furlong against Italy in Rome, and have Tom O'Toole on the bench and give Andrew Porter a well-earned rest. It would be by no means dropping him for the game against Italy. I think it would very much be a well-deserved rest for him, because he's played an insane amount of rugby since last August, and I think Tadhg Furlong has probably stepped up to the point where maybe he needs a start. And I think you're at a stage with Tom O'Toole where it would be nice to see 20-30 minutes out of him in an Ireland shirt as well. In the second row, I'd bring James Ryan back in and partner him with Tadhg Byrne, and have either Ian Henderson or Ryan Baird on the bench. And then in the back row, I'd probably make one change, maybe two. So I'd put Will Connors in for Van der Fleer, again, just to rotate a few minutes around and kind of keep things fresh. I'd give Rhys Ruddock another start. I thought he was quite good yesterday. And then I'd either play CJ Stander or maybe give Jack Conan a run. But to be honest, that wouldn't be making or breaking the team as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't, CJ Stander's been excellent for these opening couple of games. Okay, so you will actually make some fairly significant 5 or 6 changes over the course of the starting lineup, and a few more in the pack as well, or in the subs as well. Are they changes because they're what the team should be for the last 2 games, or are they changes just for managing? And actually, the team for Scotland, the team for England, is going to be very close to the team as it was for the first game. Yeah, I think by the time we play Scotland, it'll be pretty similar to the team that played against Wales. This lineup for Italy, I think when you're playing what is on paper anyway, your easiest match in that middle week, it's actually set things up perfectly, because you have a break either side of the match as well. So if there are players who are carrying a lot of minutes, it gives you the perfect opportunity to maximise the rest that you're actually giving them either side of 2 blocks of 2 very, very difficult games. So like the team I'm picking there, it's pretty much a combination of giving some guys a first opportunity, like Craig Casey, Tom O'Toole off the bench, giving either Ross Byrne or Billy Burns just another opportunity. Then it's managing the minutes of players like Andrew Porter or even Johnny Sexton, even though he didn't get to play last week. And also then it's just freshening things up as well and just kind of getting another opportunity to see Jordan Larmour out on the wing when, you know, mainly we would have seen him with Ireland at full back. So it's really a combination of mixing things up. But by the time we go to Murrayfield, I think it will be looking much closer to the team that went out against Cardiff a couple of weeks back.
We have 3 minutes left for our final talking point, and that's Ireland's limited attack.
Very, very limited attack. It's just bizarre. Like, I think it really, I know defence, as you were saying as well, was an issue as well, and it was a big talking point. But just seeing it yesterday, the attack over, and in particular over the first couple of games, Ireland they have dominated possession in their opening 2 matches. They have the highest carry count of any team in this Six Nations campaign. The 2 lowest, bizarrely, Wales and France, have both less than 180 carries across these couple of games. So they are using their possession and they're using what the ball they have very, very wisely. Ireland, though, 315 carries across 2 games, and to only come away with a couple of tries they have, it's really, really a poor return. It's getting to the stage now where it actually looks like teams are perfectly happy to allow Ireland to have the ball. It seems that they do not actually see Ireland as a major threat when Ireland have the ball, and that, to be honest, is a bit of an insult when you really look at it. And, you know, ruck speed is something that people have been talking about for quite some time. And to be honest, what's really strange is trying to figure out where all this is coming from, because Ireland's ruck speed across the first couple of games has actually been really good. So more than half of their rucks have been in and out in the 0 to 3 second bracket, which is the magic number. And then in the 3 to 6 second is 34% of their rucks. 12% then are 6 seconds or slower. They're pretty good figures to be having. So the problem isn't necessarily that the forwards aren't putting the ball on a plate for Conor Murray or for Jamison Gibson-Park to be using. It's just that there are so many one-out runners, and as Quinny said, not getting over the gain line. And that comes down to, as well, is actually just setting things up a little bit quicker and, you know, putting a bit of doubt. Like France yesterday, they were able to bunch in quite close to rucks at times because they knew Ireland weren't really going to drag them out much further. So, honest to God, I think yesterday you could have swapped some of those first choice players in. You could have put James Ryan back into that team. You could have put Johnny Sexton and Conor Murray into the back line as well. And I'm not really sure how big a difference it would have made, because I think France were just so comfortable dealing with the system Ireland had, not just the players.
All right, Neil, we've got to leave it there. Good stuff. Thanks a million for the Type 5 today. That's Neil giving his thoughts. We had a load of comments running through today and on Instagram. People talking about Mike Katz, the philosophy, one-out runners and a lack of ideas in open play. Some people saying we're grand, we just need to bring in some more of the young lads. Everybody's overreacting. An understrength Irish team ran a good French team close. Don't change anything. Saying that we need to change, Irish rugby needs to change. Stay the way it's going, give it time. On coaching suggestions, a lot of people calling for Ronan O'Gara and Stuart Lancaster. Offloading needed McCluskey to start, Sexton, Stander, Murray, Healy to go. The 10 needs to change. Let's play to keep the ball alive. High risk, but what kind of team will we be in a World Cup? It's a good question. What kind of team will we be in a World Cup? Why don't we repeat exactly what we've done in the build-up to every single World Cup to this point? That'll definitely lead to a change in our fortunes, right?
Yeah, that's it. Just seems so predictable at this point that that's exactly what's going to happen, isn't it? Like it's hard to see, even though we're even halfway through a World Cup cycle. It just seems inevitable at this point that we're going to sleepwalk into the exact same thing. We have Champions League tomorrow with Graham Hunter, Six Nations with Brian O'Driscoll, and much more besides. Stay with us. We're going to bring you Stephen McPhail talking about the fallout from Arsenal's 4-2 win against Leeds, which was live on OTB. First, here's Andy Dunn on what went wrong for Ireland against France.